Alright, my name is Mats Henricson. I am chairman of the Swedish Bitcoin Association. Been there for a bit more than a year now. I've been around the Bitcoin area for 4.5 years. So I'm one of the oldest Bitcoiners in Sweden. There are a few others, but it's been quite a while, quite a ride. And actually, I'm that kind of guy that picks a new interest every year or so. But I've stuck to Bitcoin for more than 4 years now, because there is so many implications around Bitcoin. It's fascinating, algorithm and economics and politics and all that stuff that interests me. I'm mostly the go-to person when people are looking for someone to talk about or have for interviews. So I at least once a month there is some kind of event or some kind of fair or some kind of interview that I go to. So and I report back to the rest of the board about things happening. But there are lots of skilled people on the board, lots of people that are very much interested in this area. I think one area where there's been slow progress is with banks. Banks in Sweden are fat cats. They made I think 60 billion Swedish crowns in profits last year, which is just an insane amount of money. So they have no incentive to innovate or do anything, and there are four major banks that are just raking in money. Within financial institutions it might be better, and actually among people in general there's lots of interest, lots of skepticism, and but still some really high-profile articles in major magazines has been around Bitcoin. So you know, it's lots of good press, I think. I'm actually kind of conservative in that respect, because I've been using the Satoshi client since day one. So I know how it works. I moved wallets from one computer to another several times. And I've even had corrupt databases, you know. Sometimes you have to reload the whole blockchain. And even though I felt nervous every time, it all works out fine. When it comes to Android, I've always been a Schildbacher fan. The traditional, the old Bitcoin wallet has worked fine for me. So that's what I've been using Multibit too, but not that much. I actually discovered that API because I was a Java developer back then, and Java has been the core programming language for me for many years. So I searched and I found this little library written by this guy from Ukraine, I think, but it was abandonware at the time. So I picked it up, I got in contact with him, and he let me in. So I wrote tons and tons of unit tests for it, because I really believe in solid programming with unit tests. So I wrote lots of unit tests, and then I expanded the API to the latest version of the HTTP API for Bitcoin D, and I worked on that for maybe a month. So I wrote a few thousand lines of code, but since then I left it behind. So it's abandonware now too. There was this guy that showed some interest back a while ago, but he didn't. It never really got picked up by someone else. So currently, I think if you want to do Java programming with Bitcoin, I think Multibit is the best choice to do it with that kind of an API. It's much better documented and much more solid than that Java API, I think. I actually wrote my first email on the mailing list yesterday night, and my points were that before anyone writes anything more, they should actually read everything written so far. Because I think it's insulting to write, just rehash stuff that's been said over and over and over again, because it's wasting hundreds of people's time to do that. And I also really urge people to be creative and helpful, not just criticizing, but actually trying to give alternatives. Because right now I'm extremely impressed by Gavin's. He's always nice. He doesn't respond to slander or snipe remarks. He's always trying to be constructive and helpful. It must be very hard on him right now, because it's so much unconstructive work. I think a good choice seems to be 8 megabyte blocks. Just go for it, and that will give us a few years. Because as like Mike Hearn has been saying and Gavin has been saying, it's really bad when transactions are lost or delayed for whatever reason. It gives users a really bad feeling about the blockchain. I mean, where the heck is my transaction? They don't know that it goes into this meme pool and will eventually turn up in the block, but it's just lost. It's very frustrating. It happened to me a long time ago. So I think we just pick 8 megabytes and then we'll be okay for a couple of years. I mean, one of the key things in Bitcoin is that there is a cap at 21 million. But if you create altcoins all over and over again, there is no cap anymore. There will just be rife inflation again, because there will just be another altcoin coming every now and then. So, and I think most of them are just scams, because they don't have anything really. So, and I've been sort of raging against this Noi coin. Have you heard of it? Mm-hmm. Oh, man, it's disappointing. And there's so many Swedes involved in that, in Noi coin. I think it's a disgrace to Sweden. Many people lured into wasting money and into something that will never happen, I think. But actually, I think something that has not been said at all really when it comes to altcoins is that if you fork the Bitcoin code base, then you have a really high responsibility because on your shoulders, because every single security vulnerability that is found and fixed in Bitcoin, you have to report that back to your altcoin. Otherwise, you're actually exposing other people's money to security problems. And I'm not sure many people, care about that. They just want to fork the Bitcoin source code and get rich. So whenever I see a fork, an altcoin, I really want to talk about these things. And Bitcoin by far has the biggest number of developers that care about security. So that's my major, point when it comes to this that I haven't seen everyone else mentioning. But to me, colored coins would be mostly used for assets like shares or bonds or something like that. But I guess the options are endless. So I think colored coins are just a way of. I don't think really I have any problems at all with colored coins. It seems like a really it's still on the Bitcoin blockchain. No, I think it's good. I really hope it takes off. I think something that has always been intriguing to me is Bitcoin oracles. If you know about Bitcoin oracles, okay, that's a fascinating area. As you know, the scripts in Bitcoin cannot talk to the outside world. You cannot write a script saying the coin should go that way if the dollar to yen value is above a certain range or under a certain range at any particular time, because that's going outside of the blockchain. You can't talk to the outside world in these scripts. But a Bitcoin oracle can do that. So actually, you can make futures. You can bet on, for example, the oil price at this particular date using Bitcoin oracles. And oil futures are, insane amounts of money because they don't want to hedge on the price of oil. So if people can use Bitcoin oracles, I think it will grab a lot of attention all over, because that's such an enormous amount of money that can be moved completely into the blockchain. Mm-hmm. And there are actually the first real Bitcoin Oracle was created just a couple of months ago, run by this guy from Italy. And he's using Wolfram Alpha. Have you heard of them? It's actually a maths program that has expanded outside, so that actually you can ask it real like questions about the world. I mean, you can ask questions. I think you can ask like questions like, who is the president of the United States, and will actually answer Barack Obama. But you can also say, you know, what is the price of the dollar right now in euros, and he will actually figure it out and answer what's the price right now. And this Wolfram Alpha system has an API, and that's the API that this guy in Italy is using for actually asking real world questions. So that's an area that will, if that catches, you know, if that starts to get real attention, it could really catch fire, because then an enormous amount of money would move into Bitcoin. But then something else that I find interesting too is Bitcoin agents. Have you heard of Bitcoin agents? It's a program that is autonomous, and it has its own wallet, and it can offer a service to the outside world, to humans like you and I. And then it uses the profits it gets paid in Bitcoins, of course, uses those Bitcoins to pay for the services it needs to do its, you know, the service to us.
Like what IBM have been working on recently.
Maybe.
They have a washing machine that can order
detergent and stuff, and water,
and pay for it,
and electricity. Yeah, yeah. I was interviewed about a year ago by this guy from the Swedish national radio, and out of the blue, I came up with this idea that maybe if you can, I mean, we're getting close to self-driving cars. What if a self-driving car gets paid in Bitcoin? You grab one of those cars on the street and you say, I want to go to the airport. It drives you to the airport. You pay him the car. The car figures out it needs gas. It rolls over to this gas station. That way it can fill it up with using Bitcoins. And suddenly you have this machine that runs on itself, by itself, and it may not be owned by anyone either.
Yeah.
And if that cab is really successful, it could potentially order a copy of itself. And suddenly you have two cabs running off of one or actually two Bitcoin wallets, and they make a service to society and amasses profits to itself or something. That's Bitcoin agents. But it could also be just a service on the internet. Say, I offer to store your files on the net for, like Dropbox, and you pay it with Bitcoin, and if it's successful, it can clone itself and have another service. Or if it needs an extension, it could potentially hire a programmer that fixes stuff. But that's far in the future, of course. But it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
No, we don't really have the resources, but we don't really have the skills either. We're like mostly white male software engineers. We don't have really that much skills when it comes to law or stuff like that. So, but actually, I've been called into some situations where companies are talking with various Swedish government agencies about various stuff, and they just want me to get in there and explain how things works. So that's it's on a from time to time basis only. So I offer my services for free. Actually, I remember talking about this with someone, and someone said, what do you mean legal? It's mathematically proved. How can it not be illegal?
I've had the same argument. I've seen the
but
same
then again,
argument.
if you need to go into a courtroom and actually argue around these things and explain them, you may have a uphill battle. But still, absolutely, I agree. I mean, if there is one area where it absolutely makes sense, it's here. I think. There needs to be some kind of API or some kind of standard procedure for doing this. I mean, what kind of hashing algorithm are you using for putting stuff in there? I mean, I guess there are obvious choices, and so that it's not fragmented into 1,000 companies doing it all different. that would be bad, I guess. And then again, how do you federate it? Would it be, I mean, in Sweden, for example, land titles is done by a company or an organization called Lantmäteriverket. That's where you register your own, what property you own and stuff. And but if that's split into various companies, where do you go to? I mean, how would they interact together? It's intriguing. Because I mean, in a sense, it's very interesting, because instead of having a heater that just converts electricity to heat, like we have so much heating everywhere, it could be a miner instead. It could be mining in there. So in that respect, could do something useful instead of just converting electrons to heat. But if then again, how would they get those miners into the heaters wherever they are? I mean, if it's heating water in a water boiler or wherever it is, I'm not convinced that will be easy. No, I think lots of people. I mean, I know, for example, Andreessen Horowitz, the Mark Andreessen investment firm. They are doing strategic investments in areas where they just want to have a finger in the pie. They know that this area, that particular investment is not going to be profitable. They just want to be really, really close where things happen. And I think that's why people have invested in the Sidechains company and also in 21 Incorporated, because it's a company where something is going to happen. So they invest lots of money. They know that the money is probably wasted, but it might transform into something else. That's just my guess.
Speculation.
And some of these investors, they have insane amounts of money. So investing, 10 or 50 million US into one of the hottest areas on the planet is just pocket change. I work currently as a consultant at a company where one of the investors is among the 100 richest persons on the planet. Any amount of money is just pocket change for these guys. So they just want to do something interesting. Otherwise, they would be bored out of. They need to do something exciting, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's my guess. These companies are just fumbling in the dark, but the area is extremely interesting. So they might stumble onto something.
Yeah.
And actually, I read that 21 Incorporated, I think it was this morning or yesterday, they actually have something like 5% of all the mining machinery in the world right now, the hashing power. So they're a really big player. No, not really. I'm more concerned about the experiment that happened a few days ago, when they tried to when they did an experiment and just flooded the network with the transactions. You missed it?
No. Yeah.
2 days ago, a few researchers or people on the developers, they decided to see what happens if we flood the system with just way too many transactions. And it turns out, if you use something like $3,000 in fees for just sending small transactions with sending them to yourself, not just another wallet somewhere. You can just flood the system with transactions that makes other real transactions end up being delayed for hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's really bad. So I guess that's one reason why it's a good idea to raise the limit from 1 megabyte to at least 8, because then the price of doing that kind of attack goes up a lot.
Yeah.
Still, it's just pocket change for anyone that really wants to, fuck with the system.
Yeah.
If you can spend like $50,000 and just bog down the system, that's really bad. We talked about it on the mailing list this morning. I'm not sure if your Swedish is good enough, but we found at least 3 reasons. One is that mining is very competitive right now, so people that are into mining, they are forced to sell instead of hoard their mined coins. And that is actually an accelerating trend. So if the Bitcoin price goes down, they have to sell even more, which pushes the market even further down. So that's bad. And then another reason is because many people believe that the peak we had a year and a half ago in November 2013, it was so inflated that actually we're down now to more like realistic levels. A third reason is that there is so much money invested in Bitcoin startups right now. It's just, you know, the whole market is just boiling with lots of people doing this. And many of these startups are actually funded by people that got rich. They got their coins for nothing. And so these startups are built on Bitcoins, and they have to sell some of their Bitcoins to keep their startups afloat. So that's another sale pressure. So there's lots of reasons for a push down.
Mm. Yeah,
I think many of them are good though, because I mean all this investment in Bitcoin startups is crazy good for us. Someone mentioned that there might be 10,000 developers working on Bitcoin right now, and that's crazy. That's really, really good news. Mm. Lots and lots and lots and lots of people doing interesting stuff. I run two full nodes, one on my home laptop and one at work, and I mean it's my computers, and you know it doesn't take up that much disk, and bandwidth is no problem for me either. So you know I don't see it as a problem. But I think the current limitations are okay. You can put stuff in certain places in the blockchain, but the nodes can throw that away after a while, and you can also purge the blockchain from spent transactions too. So I think we're fine for now. It's no big deal. I mean, it's sort of frustrating to. In a way, it feels like everything is just going so slowly, but you know, and if you look at it from another way, it's just, you know, accelerating. It's going really fast.
Well, we're 6 years in now, right?
Yeah, I was at the first Bitcoin conference in New York 4 years ago, and I was the only Swede. We were about 5 people from Europe, and right now I think there's like. If you don't count K and C Miner, which I have no idea how many people are working there, if you don't count them, I think there's like at least 20, maybe 30 people working full time in Stockholm on Bitcoin. I mean, it's crazy. In 4 years, from nothing to 30 people, I think that's a lot.
Y'all want to get funky?